So we're going to work 1 through 6, and then we're going to work 12. In 1 through 6, the reason why I know it's the Pythagorean theorem is because notice how I've got 2 out of the 3 sides. I don't have any angle measures, and I can never assume anything. I have to go by facts only. But I don't need those angles because if I'm trying to find the value of m, and I know it's a right triangle, and I know 2 out of the sides, the Pythagorean theorem, 12 squared plus m squared equals 20 squared, will allow me to find what the value of m is. So 12 squared is 144. And 20 squared is 400. 400 minus 144 is 256. First thing I want to do is figure out, is 256 a perfect square? And it is. The square root of 256 is 16. So guess what? M is equal to 16. So in number 2, again, I know 2 out of the 3 sides, so I'm going to use the Pythagorean theorem to figure out what n is. So 15 squared plus n squared equals 39 squared. Okay, I'm going to just skip a step because you know you're going to have to subtract 15 squared from 39 squared. So I'm going to do that in one fell swoop. 39 squared minus 15 squared is 1,296. And then square root that. So let's see if it's a perfect square. And it is. The square root of 1,296 is 36. So n is equal to 36. So the length of my missing side is 36. Okay, so in number 3, I've got the 2 legs and I've got to find the hypotenuse. So 7 squared plus 6 squared is equal to t squared. Okay, go Joseph. 7 squared plus 6 squared is 85. 85 is equal to t squared. Now, I already know that 85 is not a perfect square, so I'm going to have to break it down if I can. I know that 5 goes into 85, but 85 only breaks down to 5 and 17. 5 is prime, 17 is prime, so I cannot break it down. So t is equal to the square root of 85. Okay, number 4. So trying to find the hypotenuse here. 2 squared plus 8 squared equals c squared. 2 squared plus 8 squared is 68. 68 is equal to c squared. To undo a square, we square root it. And then let's break down 68. So 2, 2, and 17 is how 68 breaks down. The 2's come out of the radical. The 17 stays in. So c is equal to 2 times the square root of 17. Now, number 5's a little tricky because at first look, it's given us that we have a square, WXYZ. And we might think that that has to do with an isosceles right triangle, which you're right, that's true. But that's only if they gave me the diagonal. They have not given me the diagonal. You see, right here is my diagonal. That goes from corner to corner. They've given me a different segment. So they've told me it's a square, so that means I know that all of my side lengths are equal. They're all going to be 4. And so I know that the length of WZ has to be 4. Well, if this segment right here is 1, then that means that the remaining segment has to be 3 because 3 plus 1 is 4. And so now, if I'm trying to find how long AX is, this segment here, well, it is the Pythagorean theorem. And I can already tell you without doing any work behind it, it's one of those special Pythagorean theorems, and it's a 3, 4, 5 triangle. So the length of AX is 5. You can go through and use the Pythagorean theorem if you want to. 3 squared plus 4 squared equals AX squared. And when you do the math, you're going to find out that AX has a length of 5 units. Okay, and then number 6. So it is also the Pythagorean theorem. I don't have any angle measures. I cannot assume anything about that triangle. I can't assume that it's equilateral, but I don't need to because I know that this segment is 2. I know that the hypotenuse is 8, and so I've got to figure out what x is. So 2 squared plus x squared equals 8 squared. So 8 squared minus 2 squared is 60. So x squared equals 60. So then we're going to have to break down 60. 60 breaks down to 6 times 10. Six is 2 times 3. 10 is 2 times 5. So my set of 2's comes outside of the radical, leaving with 3 times 5, or 15, under the radical. So x is 2 times the square root of 15. Okay, so one more that falls in this category, that falls using the Pythagorean theorem, is number 12. I know that it's the Pythagorean theorem because, again, I don't have any of the angle measures, but I know 2 out of the 3 sides. I know the hypotenuse on one of the legs. So 7 squared plus x squared equals 9 squared. 9 squared minus 7 squared is 32. So x squared equals 32. Square root both sides. Whoops, I wrote down 36. Brain's mouth said one thing, hand said another. So square root both sides. 32 breaks down to 2 and 16. 16 breaks down to 4 and 4. 4's come out, 2 stays in, so x is 4 times the square root of 2.